Visalia.
Oh, shout them out on the podcast.
I'm actually going to do that. Thank you for reminding me, because we've gone 2 episodes with their music as our intro.
Yeah.
And I've not shouted them out whatsoever.
But we did get a copyright claim, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
so,
we did.
Fuck them, I mean.
Yeah, any monetization that we would get from this video is going to go to them anyway, so they don't need a shout out. No.
Yeah.
Welcome back, everybody, to the.
I was down to pay Alf, but I don't know about these guys.
Oh, I'm more worried about Alf showing
it.
up and breaking our knees for it, though.
Yeah.
Like, that guy's not going to fuck around.
Right.
UFC 275, the breakdown. I am dubbing this episode the Return of the Queen. That music that you heard at the intro was by a band named Macondo. And I'm very, very thankful that they let us use that song for our intro. That's a song called Stop Giving Away off of their debut album, Voices. Really good stuff. Check them out on YouTube, Spotify, Google Play Music, all that shit. YouTube Music nowadays. Welcome back, Brandon. Really excited to talk about this one. We have plenty to discuss. This is my card of the year, and anybody who's been listening to this show knows why. It's pretty obvious. But it's really good. Not just the people's main event. We have a really, really good headliner, a good co-headliner, a fantastic showcase fight. There's a lot of other good stuff all up and down the card. But we're going to start it off with the showcase fight. Obviously, it's the rematch that is like 2.5 years in the making. The 2020 Fight of the Year. I was in the building for that fight. I watched it live. The experience watching it live was not nearly as good as when I rewatched it on TV. It's kind of one of those deals where it's like you just kind of want to say you were there, but it's definitely a compromised experience watching it live. I mean, from where I was sitting, and I'm talking about the first fight between Joanna Jędrzejczyk and Zhang Weili back on March 7, 2020, the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. From where I was sitting, it's not like I couldn't tell that I was watching something that was definitely fight of the night or potentially fight of the year. Like, I could tell it was a good fight, but it just doesn't do it justice until you're watching it from the comfort of your, wherever you're at, on a bigger screen or even a phone, getting the good quality camera angles. But that was 2.5 years ago. Joanna Jędrzejczyk has not competed since then. Zhang Weili has since then lost her title to Rose Namajunas in a very, really short fight where she ate the left high kick. Rematched for it, came up short in a fight that I actually thought she won, but it was a pretty uneventful fight. It was a close fight. I thought she won. I thought Joanna won their first fight back in 2020. That was also a close fight. I mean, I could be as biased as I want, but I mean, there's no denying that fight definitely could have gone either way. I have a lot to say about it. I have a lot of thoughts, but I want to let you talk about it a little bit first.
See, I plan on, I do have thoughts about it. I don't think you would probably like the thoughts that I have about it.
That's okay. I'm here for it. I'm ready for all.
I just don't in the interviews. She's like, the fight made me better. I'm more of a pro now, but it's like, I don't know. Like, you haven't fought in 2 years, and like that's great. And the thing, like, we both follow her on Instagram or whatever, and she's awesome. Like, I like seeing it, and I always thought she was an amazing fighter. Joanna was an amazing fighter. She is still an amazing fighter. Let's not talk about her like she's dead or whatever. She is an amazing fighter. One of the greatest female fighters of all time. Top 3, in my opinion. She's a top 3 female fighter of all time. Like, and it's not even a question. I would put her ahead of Ronda Rousey. As much as like Joe Rogan wants to cry in interviews about how Ronda Rousey's so amazing. Ronda Rousey's shitty.
Yeah.
So female MMA. She is what. If there's going to be a one-sided female MMA fighter where she's a Muay Thai practitioner, like one of the best and I love Muay Thai, so one of the best Muay Thai practitioners like ever. In men's, women's, whatever, anyone who can put Muay Thai into it. Shevchenko's in there. She's definitely moves the sport forward as far as Muay Thai goes, but she's much more better rounded than Joanna is.
Yeah. Undeniable. She has 3 wins over Joanna in Muay Thai, so.
Yeah. So, and she's an amazing grappler. Well, we'll talk about her later. But the fact that she hasn't fought in 2 years, that's a long time, dog. That's a long time.
It's a
And
long layoff.
she's great. And I think if anyone can do it, not just her specifically, but fighters like her with the pedigree and the history like her, I'm sure she can still like bring those feelings of like what it is like to fight when she can get herself into that place mentally when she's she's that type of person when she's training. But I think the gal she's going to be fighting has really like isolated herself and like is like 100% down for this like this, like she just wakes up and she's down for this and like singular focus. For better or worse, she's gone to a different camp, which I think she's even gone like above that camp, right? Because she was with Cejudo, and then she's even like gone a step ahead where she's like just by herself, right?
Yes, yeah,
kind of hard to try, the Chinese media, or I just don't trust anything Chinese and media related. You kind of can't. But I mean, it's stupid to say, but
it's not unfair to say, though. I mean, you do have to kind of like give her a second look when she's probably. I mean, we might be talking out of her ass a little bit. I don't know if it's 100% confirmed, but she may very well be a state-sponsored fighter for China.
Yeah,
and like that's not us putting on. That's not us putting on our tinfoil hats or being the big bad China, but like it is the truth.
It's
like,
the truth, and it's probably worse than what we're even like can comprehend. Like to be fair, it probably like this conversation went crazy, but it's like it's great. I'm glad you brought this up because like nothing comes out of that country that isn't like polished and shined and like narrative given out. There you go. Right. So like there's nothing she says or does or anywhere she goes that isn't like dictated to her. And I don't even think, I think if you were to ask a CCP member, and like, is that, they'd be like, yes, that's true. Like, okay, they wouldn't even like be upset that you said that. You know what I mean? So
I don't think this is necessarily any kind of a downside for Zhang Weili, though. I think if it's actually probably beneficial for her, and if more girls were probably given the same opportunity, I think they'd probably be better for it. I mean, we can go on about the potential downsides of the way they do things in China, but I think she's definitely reaping the benefit. I think she's definitely reaping the benefits of that, though.
Yeah, I mean, especially in something where you're a single athlete by yourself, that that sort of like approach to it where it's like you're isolated, you're told when to do what to do, how to do it, and that's kind of, I'm sure that can kind of help in a training camp, whereas someone who's like, Joanna's at ATT, that's a team oriented thing. There's so many, she's talking about Colby Covington's like fighting over here and Masvidal and blah 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 blah. That's all going on where like in China, like, that just won't happen. Those guys are just, they'll kill their pets and then they'll come for them. And then Colby Covington would be boarded up in his apartment and just won't eat for 26 days. So
there's definitely more potential for the coaches or the coaching situation at American Top Team to be spread thinner. When they're dealing with just a massive roster of fighters that train at their gym. So, I mean, and the optics aren't lost on me. And here's the thing. I don't want you to pull your punches when you're judging this fight because I'm ready to put the shields up either way, so it's fine.
I was going to be like, I can't go there.
I can tell a little bit. No, that's fine.
But but it's crazy because the more I wanted to, sorry to interrupt you, Doug. I hate when I do that. Sorry about
you're
that,
good, bro.
The one thing that like I was actually like, just to be funny and like how can I shit on this, bro, and like make, because you would do it to me but not to be mean, just because it's funny,
right?
And the more you look into it, you're like, dang, like she's about that life, and she's cool as hell, she's funny in her own way, it's funny. And who doesn't like someone who like takes their fucking Muay Thai that serious? Like you're cool with me, so it's like, dang. So you kind of go into it with like I'm gonna shit on this broad, and then like you just can't.
Well, I mean, also you look at Joanna's been in Singapore for like 3 days now, 2 days, 3 days, and she's already had, at least as far as I can tell from her social media, she's already done like 2 photo shoots there.
Yeah.
And the only thing I've seen from Zhang Weili is she just uploaded a video of her like skipping rope for like 5 minutes straight with a heavy rope.
That's that fucking hammer and sickle, dude. That's like,
right.
There's
and those optics, it's not lost on me. Going back to the 2.5-year layoff though, I would be a bit more worried about that if Joanna has ever been known to show up out of shape. She's never been out of shape. She's always shown up in peak condition. Aside from some alleged like bad weight cuts. So that's I think that there's something to be said for the fact that like after the performance that they put on in their fight in 2020 and the damage that both girls took, I think I wouldn't have faulted either of them for taking a whole year off. Obviously, Zhang Weili got in there a lot sooner. I don't think that 2.5 years was warranted, but do you have anything to say about the fact that, you know, Joanna hasn't been taking damage in that time frame, whereas Zhang Weili has gone in there twice with Rose Namajunas and got stopped one of those times.
And that's a great point, man. Like, to not be putting mileage on yourself, to kind of, so it's one of those things with sports, is like we'll never really know, and it's probably case by case basis for these people, because they're human beings, you know. So like, who knows how it would affect? They're not like a machine. It's not like a race car where you just have the mileage on that engine, you know what those tire tread, what it looks like. You can put it into an equation. Like, you have no idea what's going on in your soul, under mind, whatever, and you don't know if it helped Weili or if it didn't. So you're just kind of like, you know, what is it? And so we won't know until Saturday. But I just think the juxtaposition of like what one fighter is doing and the other fighter is doing, it's kind of hard to like get past that, where, you know, Weili is like looking like deep inside herself and like grappling. I have to fucking grapple, and you saw that's what she wants to do, and she's a really good, powerful striker. And if she's focusing on grappling to like the point, if she's like communist Chinese focusing on grappling right now, like, that's going to be very, very hard for someone who hasn't fought. And then their last fight was 2.5 years ago against someone who is 2.5, and that's not just 2.5 years of fights. That's 2.5 years of, again, communist Chinese practice at grappling. Right. You know what I mean? And so, and quite frankly, 2.5 years of communist Chinese supplements, like whatever they're putting into their bodies over there. So it's like a whole different thing. It's like such a weird thing for me. I just can't get past it in my mind.
It's a little.
Go ahead. I just wanted to say, like, one thing for me is, but you can't that. Can she like knock her out? Can she just mute that? Like, just knock her out?
Can Zhang knock out Joanna?
No. Can Joanna just knock her out? Because if Joanna's doing it for points, it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be very, very hard.
That brings me to my next point: the fact that this is a 3-round fight versus a 5-round fight last time.
That's a huge thing too.
I know when they first booked this fight, I think you had messaged me and you mentioned that you thought that the 3 rounds might benefit Joanna a little bit more. I don't agree. I actually think that it hurts her. I think she's gotten accustomed to fighting 5 rounds,
and I've changed my mind since that message.
And I think she's one of the few fighters in the division that legitimately weaponizes pace and volume.
Sure.
So I think that the 5 rounds would benefit her, but across 3 rounds, I think it's hard for me to picture the changes that Zhang Weili has to make that would make the fight go any differently. Like, I feel like in order for Zhang Weili to get the upper hand in this fight, she needs to come out and just fight the same way that she fought in their first matchup, because I think she needs to not let Joanna dictate the pace of the fight. She needs to get in her face. She needs to suck her into a brawl again, because if Joanna is more careful and calculated, and she comes out fighting in the southpaw stance, which I think is her key to victory, then I think that's where she starts to get different looks. Because having rewatched the first fight a lot of times, Joanna doesn't really start finding success until she switches to southpaw, and that's when she lands that dirty like head kick, where she lands it more with the toes on Zhang Weili's mouth.
Right.
If she can knock her out,
the way you said that.
yeah,
It's that Rule 34, like the toes glance her mouth.
oh no, I'm not a foot guy.
No.
If she could knock her out,
No.
I think it's going to have to be like that with the same. It's the same kick that Zhang Weili caught, that Rose caught Zhang Weili with the left high kick. I can't expect that Zhang Weili is going to go out there and be susceptible to the exact same thing over and over again, because then it's like, what was all that communist Chinese training for? If you're going to, you know what I mean? You ate you ate that kick.
No.
Right, you ate that kick from Joanna. You got rocked by it. Your corner needed to carry you back to your corner after that. You got knocked out by it by Rose. I think Rose hit her with it again in their second fight, but didn't knock her out. So I have to assume. I have to expect the worst and assume that she's cleaned that up, and that's not going to be as exploitable again. But I still think that the key for Joanna is to be coming out in southpaw, using her footwork, not letting herself get sucked into a brawl. Do you think that the 3 rounds versus 5 rounds makes any difference for the excitement factor of the fight? Or like, do you think that they're going to be looking at it as like, okay, well, we're not fighting 5 rounds anymore. We don't have to like maintain our gas tank for that long, so we're going to go out and give it all that action that we gave you in 5 rounds in the previous fight, we're going to give it to you all in 3 rounds now? Or do you think that it goes any differently?
Well, the original like theory behind how it helps Joanna is, well, she hasn't fought in a long time, so that's say what you want to say, like the only thing that can really train you to fight is to fight and to be in those. And she's done it before, mentally she has, and she's done very well. And she's right, she's exploited her pace and kind of putting it on people and just being maniacal with it later on and really dragging people out there. But I think it actually, now that you mention it, and I've come around, and I forgot about saying that, and but I do remember saying that, and I was wrong, because I think it being 3 rounds kind of makes it a little easier, or not easier for her, but a little harder for her, right? So I don't know. I mean, I just can't get it out of my head. Like 2.5 years is a long time, man, for anyone.
Yeah.
Like, and we've seen guys like, I hate that I always talk about this guy, but like John Jones takes such a long layoff, and then he looks like shit when he comes back.
Yeah. And
he just barely finds a way to win. And there are so many fighters that have done that take the long, and some of them look good, but some of them just don't. And it's just hard for me to get out of my mind how it's going to work out for her. I wish she could have had a tune-up fight or something, but what do I know?
I completely agree. I mean, I get and understand that she was like waiting and not just willing to take any fight, and it paid off. She has a real clear road to the title, but we wouldn't have known that this would be it was still a gamble, because 2 months ago, or even a month ago, we didn't know that this was going to be as much of an opportunity for her. You know what I mean? We knew it was like an inevitable rematch, but anytime Rose was at the top of the hill holding that strap, it was always going to be tough to kind of like picture a scenario where Joanna is going to get back to the title. And now with Carla sitting on the throne, it's like it's almost like T-ball. But I do agree, though. Like, I think that the Marina Rodriguez fight was there for Joanna anytime. I
really wanted to see. I was just going to say that. Good point, dude. I was just going to say, like, man, her and Marina, and then in like a fight night main event, or a UFC Vegas main event, her and Marina getting in there would have been amazing for like just to watch, for her career trajectory, for her to see like, hey, are you ready to go out against like the Communist Party's like robot? Are you ready to fight a Communist Party robot, dude? Like, can you do that? That would have been good, because then you can kind of gauge it. So we're just kind of, I mean, it's frustrating for us because we're like, man, we just want to see her fight, and we're kind of flying blind as far as like what we're talking about. But I mean, it's her life, it's her, if she can do it. But it just leaves herself open if she loses and it doesn't look good, it's gonna, because she's one of those very few fighters in the UFC, at least for me, that could take a long layoff like this and be like, yeah, that's fine. She fights Zhang, wins, she should get a title shot. Whatever, she's just based off of her resume.
Right.
But it's a double-edged sword where, okay, your resume earned you the fact that you can take that time off, but if you start looking bad and you start looking bad two fights down the road, then it's like, well, I mean, when do you turn into Tony Ferguson? You know, after a while, like when does that start happening?
Right. And I mean, I won't deny it. Joanna has been squatting on her ranking. You know, I mean, she's officially been removed from the rankings for like a year now. So,
yeah.
I mean, what does that matter anymore? But kind of like we see at welterweight with Colby and Masvidal, you know what I mean? Those guys just kind of refusing to fight any up and coming contenders and really floating along off their past achievements. Undeniably, Joanna is doing that. There are instances where I see those guys and I see like, oh, Masvidal, he doesn't want anything to do with Leon Edwards. You know what I mean? He doesn't want Gilbert Burns. You know what I mean? He's going to take an L if he fights those guys. It makes sense.
Break their back.
It's extra frustrating because, and then I'm obviously a fanboy, but there's very, very few matchups at strawweight against, you know, some of the up and coming prospects that I think I would see Joanna having trouble with. So as a fan, I'm like, fight her, fight Mackenzie Dern, fucking fight Marina Rodriguez. Like, go get those wins. Like, people, you're going to get all the credit for starting to chip away at the next generation of contenders in that division.
But Shevchenko is doing this card. Shevchenko is doing this card. Like,
that's a really, really good point, and we'll touch on that when we get to that fight too. But yeah, Taila Santos does really pretty much represent like the first of the new guard, like the next generation. I feel like Lauren Murphy was the last fight for Shevchenko to be like, okay, this is the old generation of flyweights that I just cleaned out, and now with Taila Santos coming later on down the line, you're gonna get your Manon Fiorot's, your Casey O'Neill's, blah blah blah. But anyways, I do think, as going back to the Weili Zhang Joanna Jędrzejczyk fight, I do think there's a little bit of cause for concern about the fact that Weili Zhang has been jumping around fight camps so much. I like, and like you mentioned, I did see in the countdown that she's working with a whole new team now, and she's kind of like isolated herself, and she's been in Singapore for a little while now, training with new people. I don't know who any of these new trainers are. I know it's not the trainers that she had before she started training with Cejudo. I think there's danger in that because we really don't know what kind of game plan she's going to bring. If she was still training with Cejudo, I was kind of giddy at the idea that Cejudo stupidly is going to send her out there to try and wrestle Joanna Jędrzejczyk, which I think would be a big fucking mistake because Joanna has some of the sneakiest, like, best takedown defense in that division. So I would be, as a fanboy, I would be excited if she came out and tried to wrestle Joanna. I think that would go very, very badly for her. And would probably end up costing her like her own conditioning and her own gas tank later in the fight. But it's a complete mystery now because I really don't know who she's training with, or what kind of game plan they're going to bring to the table, other than just hit harder and not fall for don't leave any openings when Joanna switches to southpaw. But I haven't seen Joanna training at southpaw that much in her footage. And I don't know if it's something that she's covering up or hiding. I've seen her do some southpaw when she's doing some boxing, but I mean, we're not seeing any sparring, and we're not seeing any sparring from Weili Zhang either. So
and they wouldn't it wouldn't help either one. I think the mystery kind of sucks for guys like us, like what is she gonna do? But I think for the way that Joanna is very cerebral and her camp is very cerebral, like ATT would pick apart any type of whoever that trainer was, and I think it was a good move to kind of go against what you're saying, to move that, because it would be a lot easier to game plan against a Henry Cejudo, just because you can kind of see it play out with a lot of his fighters that he has, or that have come out of that camp. They kind of do it's not cookie cutter exactly, but there's a kind of you can see what they're trying to do or what they're trying to build on foundationally. And I think a crew like ATT, like, they can game plan around that pretty easily. Not easily, but a lot easier than if, like, shit, who the fuck, what film do we watch now?
Right.
So
I think it's a good sign that Mike Brown and Katel Kubis and the rest of Joanna's team is actually going with her to Singapore.
Yeah.
Because like we were talking about the ATT, it's easy for the coaches in that team to get spread out. You know, a lot of time you see them pulling double.
There was 9 guys that fought this week, right, from ATT or something like that.
At this previous UFC card, there was at least 5 guys.
I think it was 8. I think it was 8 at the end of it with early prelims and everything.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it was like 4 winners from AT&T, from ATT. But yeah, and so you see some of those coaches out there, Conan Silvero, pulling double, triple duty, and you see some instances where who fought within the last 6 months. It was like a pretty high profile fight where I would have thought Mike Brown would have been in their corner because it was a UFC fight, and I know he actually like corners them. But it turns out he was cornering like 3 guys at a Bellator card or something like that. So it's like
that was the most recent Bellator card, right? The one that
I don't think I watched.
Pitbull, was that the one that Pitbull fought in that he was at?
No, it was earlier in the year because I didn't watch the most recent Bellator card. But anyways, yeah, it's so I think it's a good sign. But there's a lot to doubt here. You know, I get the criticisms, I get the concerns. With all that said, though, my official prediction for the fight: 30-27 unanimous decision for Joanna Jędrzejczyk.
I have it the opposite.
Weili Zhang,
exact opposite.
Unanimous decision.
30-28, and then but this is a Joanna Jędrzejczyk fucking podcast. First and foremost, I don't think if it wasn't for her, there would even be a fucking podcast. So I mean, when my bread does get buttered from this podcast, I will make sure and know where my bread gets buttered.
Right on.
But until then, but no, I think that's the truth though. And she's like, I always thought she was great. I always thought she was like, before you and I even really got into MMA conversations, privately or whatever. I always thought she was good, but you did rub off on me as far as like, kind of seeing for who she is, like what she does. And it's like, so just the idiosyncrasies that she has, the way that she speaks, the things that she says, it's really cool. And that's why I put her ahead of Ronda, because it's just like, she is herself. Like it's not like this manufactured weird deal. And she's just good, and she's a good ambassador for 2 sports, for MMA and for Muay Thai. Whereas, I mean, I think Ronda, there was like a lot of outside things that happened with that, but yeah. So.
I mean,
I don't know why I crowbarred that in there, but I think she's I think I just have been like, I don't know why, but I just don't. When we think, because you had brought it up.
You can let me do the Joanna ball washing around here.
No. But I'm just saying, like, I remember we had talked about or floated the idea of like, let's break down pound for pound top fighters in these divisions after the fact, and then So when I was watching I was watching stuff for like Amanda Nunes, and so Ronda kind of like floats around in there, and it's like, man, I can name right now, I would put Joanna ahead of her. I would put Rose ahead of her. And even Rose is a terrible fight. Amanda, of course, ahead of her. I would put Cyborg ahead of her.
We're talking Rousey still?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'm sorry to like crowbar that in. And,
no.
Derail it. But
I think it's interesting.
It was just, Joanna is one of those things. Is like, I don't even think it's really even close. Just to like their fight. One's a fighter, and then one was like, just kind of like rode that wave of luck into a WWE career, where one person is and I think a lot of it had to do with training, like where they trained and who trained them. But yeah,
it would be really interesting to do a Ronda Rousey retrospective, because I feel like there's a lot of factors that went into her success but I don't want it to sound like we're completely writing her off. Like, she beat the girls that she beat. I rewatched. I mean, I wouldn't have any faith in her to come back and be a factor in the bantamweight division if she came back, or even the flyweight division.
Ronda Rousey would would struggle with this iteration of Holly Holm.
I could see that. I mean, I guess, I mean, I certainly wasn't picking Holly Holm in their first fight. Afterwards, you know, it was all like, oh, of course, you know what I mean? But going into that, I was thinking like, I hope this chick doesn't get her arm broken. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it was like a fourth wall breaker for me because the place I used to work, this guy David, I was like one of those like MMA fan where I wrote off WMMA. Like I just kind of would like keep one eye on it and like one eye on my wings when it was on. And my friend Dave was like, Holly Holm's she's not gonna beat her, he's gonna beat the shit out of her. And I was like, what? Like, are you serious? And he's like, she's gonna beat the shit out of her. It's not gonna be fair. And that was like Ronda bought, like she was like the greatest. And the way he broke it down, and it was so crazy. That guy is way ahead of his time. I haven't talked to that guy in a long time, but the way he broke down, he's like, Ronda's training shitty. Holly Holm, look where she's coming from, bro. Look who trains her. It's tailor made for. She's not just gonna be able to use. And she's like, that's like female John Jones. What? And I was like, man, okay. And then it played out. And then so after that, I always kind of like, now I like watch WMMA. Well, I would have anyway, but that was a crazy like moment in my life was when they broke that down. When he broke that down for me.
I was definitely the same way. I mean, I wasn't always like a big WMMA fan. It's definitely more recent. I would say within the last 4 to 5 years.
Yeah.
I think. How long ago was the Ronda Holly fight now? Like 7 years?
Shit, no, dude. That's like years? That was what, like 2013, dog, right?
Damn, it's
2013.
Been a little while now. So yeah, I definitely didn't see it, and I was definitely the same way where I was kind of writing off WMMA for a long time. Where I was one of those people that was saying like, oh, like Ronda's winning because these girls are shit, and I really believe that.
Which is a little kind of true. I mean,
I think a lot of them were not ready to fight on that grand of a stage under those lights.
Good point. Yeah.
And I think that Ronda's experience. Well, this is what I was thinking back then, and I think it's still relevant. I don't 100% agree with it anymore, but I think like Ronda's experience training and competing in the Olympics and stuff like that just got her a lot more ready for the constant pressure and constant competition. And I think a lot of those girls were ill prepared to kind of like they were losing before they even stepped into the cage. Like they were losing the mental battle. I think some of them definitely were too. Like was it Alexis Davis? Like some of those girls went out and just jumped into arm bars. Man, it was fucking ugly.
Or hip throws. Yeah, like she's
head
gonna
and arm
hip
toss.
You.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing?
So
they just go, here it is.
There was some really low IQ performances when Ronda was reigning over that division. And it's hard to picture her being a factor nowadays. And it's hard I mean, obviously she doesn't have the heart for it. Like, she put her face in a pillow and left the sport.
Her striking was so bad. That was so bad. Mm-hmm. And I had like in watching it, like Amanda Nunes against her, like they showed like her training hitting nets, like when she started, and then when she almost was like basically her last fight, and there was like zero what's the word I'm looking for, like progression. There's just none. She's doing this weird and then like throwing like hands this way, you know. It's like I'm terrible at that, and that's I know doing that it looked like she was like trying to do it in a mirror all the time, you know. So man, jeez, man.
Well, let's progress forward. Let's go to the co-main event, which is another WMMA fight featuring the current reigning undisputed flyweight champion Valentina Shevchenko. Is a woman who escaped the wrath of Ronda Rousey when she was fighting at bantamweight for sure. Probably moved down to flyweight so she wouldn't have to face Ronda Rousey out of fear. Valentina Shevchenko fights is facing the 19-1, the surging Tyler Santos, coming off of a 4-fight win streak over Joanne Wood, Roxanne Modafferi, Jillian Robertson, and Molly Meatball McCann. That win streak dating back to July of 2020. Before that, she lost a split decision against Mara Borella in her debut fight in the UFC in 2019. So she's 4-1 in the UFC, and she's found herself in a title fight with the GOAT, Valentina Shevchenko.
Oh, Freudian.
Freudian, you're right. How familiar are you with Tayla Santos? Have you watched her fights? I don't blame you if you haven't.
No, I did watch a few. I did see the Molly McCann fight on YouTube, just because Molly's kind of whatever she's doing.
Yeah,
is in our face a lot. We talked about it earlier, is when to pick off, and this is just a smart champion move. And this is what we're talking about with what they should be doing with Hamzat, where they're surging. You can see it there. The frame is there on Tayla. That she has the frame, the posture. The eye test is passed by her. You can see she's moving upward. There's an upward trajectory. Where in WMA, there's a lot of stalling. Like you can see them get to a certain point and then they kind of just stall. And every fight she's gotten better. And then it's a frame that can be built on that can turn into a champion. And I think Valentina is being very smart by taking the fight now and not letting her get 1 or 2 or maybe even a main event under her, like a fight night main event under her belt. And she's doing it now, which they should, with guys like Hamzat or Shavkat Rakhmonov, like those champs should be looking and saying, like, we should take these guys on right now and not let them build that momentum, let them learn on the job. Whereas Valentina is doing something very smart and taking her now. And it's like taking the gazelle when it's like just juicy enough where it's a good meal, but not big enough to where it can fight back and really do any harm to you. But that being said, who knows? Tyler, she does have that frame. Just by watching her, you can tell she's gonna have a sticking career. And 19-1 is a damn good record. Men's MMA, women's MMA, and losing your UFC debut isn't something that, it's not the worst thing. And it was split decision she lost it by, right?
Right. I forgot to mention, I haven't seen that fight. I don't know if it was a robbery. So, it could have.
No, she lost, but it was, she kind of froze up. You could tell that she just kind of froze up, like, oh, this is fucking UFC. So.
That's a really good point. I was a little bit surprised that she was getting, it's a little hard when you're sporting a record like 19-1 in the UFC and in WMMA, where you can kind of like ascend through the division a bit faster with some success,
or like Khabib did.
Yeah. He had to kind of fight everybody on the way up, but he was out pretty soon. He didn't reign for very long. Tayla Santos, I was a little unimpressed with the girls that she had to get through to earn the title shot.
Fair enough.
For a 4-fight win streak is nothing to scoff at in any division, but I just thought that it was a bit late to be earning title shots off of Joanne Wood and Roxanne Modafferi. But I think that...
How much of the shot is Valentina saying, I want to fight her? I think it's saying, like, she's good. I let her fucking get going. She's going to fuck me up. And I'm only getting older. She's getting more refined. So I need to fight. Like Floyd Mayweather did it all the time. Like, see the dudes coming up.
Got Canelo hella early.
Yeah, like, I'm going to get you. And so I think this is a respect tip of the cap. So, like, it might not make sense now, but I think we're in 2 years, 3 years, we check back and it's like, man, that was a smart move to take her on when she did, because she's surging right now.
Because I think Tayla Santos, regardless of however she gets handled in this fight, because I think she's going to get handled, she's definitely going to remain a factor, and she's going to be a problem in this division.
She's young too. She's 28. So
the only thing,
27, 28.
The only thing, let me check. She's 28. Yeah, born in '93. The only thing that was giving me a little bit of pause while she was making her she was building up her 4-fight win streak in the division, is I went back and looked at her record. She did some can crushing between 2015 and all of 2015, a little bit of 2016. Like 2015, May of 2015, April, she fought Juliana Martins, who had 0 fights on her record.
Okay.
And she was 7-0 at the time. When she was 6-0, she fought a girl who was 0-1. When she was 8-0, she fought a girl, Ana Paula, who had no fights. When she was 9-0, she fought Wellen Teixeira, who was 0-1. At 10-0, she fought Giselle Pejeda, who had no fights. Yeah. So like I saw this, and when she was kind of like, I think when she was like on a 2-fight win streak already, and I thought to myself like, okay, this girl did some can crushing. There's value in that though, because I do understand like
guys way better, or guys and gals way better than her have done it. So
yes,
that's the only thing I can say is like Hall of Famers.
Ring time is very, very valuable. Yeah, it's coming from mixed martial arts. I see that, and it gives me pause, because I think like, oh, this person was just squashing people on the regional circuit. And it's not that she wasn't doing that, but you see boxers do that, and they do that. And if you're not from the boxing world, and I don't follow boxing very closely, and you see a guy who's like 20-0 against a bunch of schmucks, and you think like, oh, well, yeah, he was just out here crushing cans. But like, those 20 fights is valuable experience, like in-ring experience that you can't substitute anywhere else. So, I mean, do I think it looks bad? Yes. Do I think it's a feather in Taila Santos' hat? Also, yes. Yeah. But it doesn't tell me much about like what she's going to be able to bring to the fight to threaten Valentina Shevchenko outside of just raw physicality and decent wrestling so far. I guess I would say that that's her key to victory, is she needs to close the distance. She can't hang out anywhere outside of the pocket or in the pocket with Valentina. I think she needs to get her up against the cage, smother her. I don't think she's going to be able to trip her, because I know that she has some trips in her arsenal. I think she's going to have to get a single or a double and take her down. And I think the real test is seen if she can do that, and if she can keep Valentina down, because nobody's really tested Valentina's scramble in a while. Valentina, like, it looks good. She has another big feather in her cap. She has a submission win over the current bantamweight champion, Juliana Pena, which is a big upset, which is like the fight that kind of made everyone go like, oh, Valentina's fucking legit everywhere. Like, she's dangerous everywhere. But I feel like in most of the instances where I remember Valentina doing work on the ground, she's in top control. She's dictating how the fight goes. You know, she's controlling the position. And if Taila Santos gets her down early, round 1, round 2, and spends a few minutes on top of Valentina Shevchenko, I think the whole look of this fight, the whole, like, the air inside the stadium in Singapore is going to change. Like, it's going to be something in the air, man. I'm not picking her, but I do think that, like, exactly like you said, I think she made a really good choice fighting her early. And I don't think it was necessarily even like Valentina going, let me fight this girl before she becomes a problem. Because in Valentina's mind, I don't think that she thinks anyone will ever be a problem. Sure. But I know that she wants to be as busy as possible, though. Like, she's definitely came out and said, like, oh, no, I'm going to be fighting till the wheels fall off. Like, I'm sorry, flyweight division, but there's no like fucking light at the end of the tunnel. Like, I plan to stick around until I'm 40, 45, until my skills start to deteriorate. It's a tough fight, but I think it's a good fight. I think it's a worthy co-main event. I don't know. I've been kind of like waxing on about it for a little while. Do you have any other thoughts about it? Like, what do you?
No, I mean, Valentina fights go like Valentina fights go. You know, she's going to be outside. She's going to jump in. She's going to score. She's going to jump in, keep you at range. She's going to pop you. She's going to beat up your leg. And then you're going to fuck up. And then there it is. Like, you're going to fuck up. And so everybody fucks up in a fight. Like, very few people are perfect. And what's a testament to her is when someone fucks up, she jumps all over it. Like, there's no way out of it. You can fuck up in a wide way. Like, there's no like, oh, you can get away with this. You're not gonna be able to get away with things. You're gonna have to fight and Taila Santos is gonna have to fight her best. Well, not that she's not going out to have her best fight, but she's gonna have to have her best fight, even going forward. Like, any fights after this is gonna have to be the best fight that she's ever had to win. I think she can do it, like you said. I think she is very physical. She's not afraid to like take a shot. I don't think she's gonna get scared of like getting hit, but I don't think there's anything besides like a really well-timed head kick. Is she really afraid of too many strikes that are going to come away? Which a well-timed head kick from anyone in the UFC is going to knock it. So I don't think she's going to get too scared of getting knocked out. So I think that she's got that going for her, and that could help her close the range, because kind of going in there and just going after her. I think that's what we'll see early on. She's going to try and clinch. She's going to try and get in there with knees and really try to affect Valentina to the body and like invest in the beginning. Because if you can invest in body shots and knees and some in-tight grappling, then you can. There's kind of a path to victory there. Whereas just trying to play that game and bounce around outside, it's not gonna work.
It's a really good point, man. I don't have a whole lot else to say about it. I don't think we're going to see an upset, but man, the post show, the recap.
I think you'd be surprised. I think you'd be surprised. I think you'd be
spicy.
I think you'd be surprised, man.
Yeah. If she comes up short, you make a good point. Like, I don't think this is going to be a girl who's going to lose the mental battle before she even gets into the cage. Like, I don't think she's going to be scared of Valentina. It's one that I'm going to be excited if even if she gets smashed by Valentina, I'm going to be very excited to see who Tayla Santos, like what other scalps from the flyweight division she wants to put up on her mantle in order to earn her way back there. Because I think when she does, there's a lot of other interesting fights for her there. I mean, she made it to a title fight without getting past Caitlin Chookagian, like at flyweight.
I would have liked to see Chookagian and Shevchenko again. I would have liked if you put that fight in right now, I wouldn't have minded it. I would have been just as content watching it again.
Yeah, and she's got Chookagian's booked against Manon Fiorot for September, so I think whoever wins that fight is definitely going to be up next.
Yeah.
So a lot of exciting stuff going on there. We will jump up. Shit, how many divisions? How many divisions would that be? Who cares? Light heavyweight division. The strap is on the line. How old is Glover Teixeira? Do you know off the top of your head? Let me pull up his Tapology page. Glover, I want to say he's 44 or 43. He is 42. Oh, I'm sorry, Glover. We were over here thinking you were like in your mid-40s already. The storybook career of Glover Teixeira. He's going into his first UFC title fight against a guy who, how would you describe Jiří Procházka? Like, and the splash.
I've said it on this podcast. He's like a movie character, like straight from a fucking movie.
Yeah.
Like small village guy reads a fucking samurai book, and then fucking goes to Japan as like a weeb to like live that out. And man, one thing I really have to thank you, because you sent me. I've seen Jiří fights. Like I always, doing laundry or whatever I'm doing, and then I like to put old fights on from like guys I like, and then just have it in the background and watch it. Those sounds of like the mat when someone gets taken down in a rising ring, the sounds of like the music after someone wins, the pageantry of the medal, and the girls in there. It's like, oh man, you just like. You get kind of doughy-eyed, and then you sent me that link where he had that 10-minute, that first round where he just like falls to the wall for like 10 minutes, just like going hard, like, and then it was fucking art, man. That shit was fucking art. Watching that, I was just like, wow, like I could not take my eyes off of it. And
that was an insane fight. Like I was just peeking at his record, kind of going like, okay, I know he's fought this guy. I know he's fought Muhammad, like Mo Lawal and everything. And I saw like, oh, Vadim Nemkov. Oh, and it was that long ago. Like that's worth fighting. And like, that was just an insane fight. And that was in 2015. Like this guy played it slow. He was in no hurry to get to the UFC.
He's very mindful, very smart. And then he had been offered. They had offered him a lot. There's interviews that go back a long ways where he's like, I don't think I'm ready right now, and I don't want to be that guy where, I go out and then I look bad, and then I'm fighting in Memphis, here I am, hopefully I win. Like he's very smart about what he's done and how he's done it. It really sucks that it has to be Glover that he's fighting, because I think the one guy that can really fucking derail that shit is the guy he's having to fight.
Yeah.
And and it's such an easy take to have. Like, oh, Glover's gonna wrestle him and take him down. What's Yuri gonna do on the ground? I don't think it's as bad. His ground game is as bad as what people are saying it is, or maybe what he's shown in the UFC. Maybe I think like he's pretty functionally aware of how, and he's not a stupid person like where he's like, oh shit, they wrestled too. Like maybe I should try that. Like he's gonna be ready for it. But I mean, man, and we're talking about like going back like nostalgia and. Like Glover was fucking Candyman back in the days. Like you say his name 5 times and fucking Chuck's boy's gonna show up, dude. And, oh man, fucking he can't get over here.
We're lucky like, that guy can't get a visa right now. Like,
man, fucking and any light heavyweight that was coming up, like Chuck would beat the shit out of him. Or not Chuck, but Glover. This guy Glover's gonna beat the shit out. And this was back before there was like, you know, fucking everything's on video. Everything is on fucking social. You can go back and watch all of his fight. Like it was just that's Chuck's boy. He beats the shit out of everybody in that camp, but he can't get over here.
Yeah.
So, but when he does, and then it's another testament to like how fucking badass John Jones is, because this fucking guy came out of here like a fucking monster. He showed up a monster. Glover Teixeira, I'm sorry, is a fucking sick ass fucking name. Mm-hmm. Just like the name, like Glover.
Yeah.
And then his fucking ears are just fucked up, and he's just like ready to fucking kill you.
Yeah. And
then John Jones just fucking like pulled his pants down and spanked him in front of everybody, fucking on a coke binge. So that's like, dang, dude. And that really, that had to fuck Glover up in the head. Like, what the fuck? Like this guy just beat the living shit out of me. I'm sure that took a few years off of his career as far as mentally, like getting back into it, you know. But
yeah, man,
I'm so glad that he has.
It takes a toll on a division when you have a guy casting that kind of cloud over it, where it's like, yeah, dude, you've had your shot, and get back in line because nobody's beating me.
Yeah, and you're not even close. And you thought you were. Everyone said he had everything. Glover had everything. He had the mystique. He had the look.
I remember when Sokoju was first coming over to the UFC, and it was like, this is the guy who ran through Little Nog and Arona. Holy shit! And then you look at his record, and it's like he has a loss to some guy named Glover Teixeira. Like that was my introduction to Glover Teixeira. So he was mythical from the get go because it's like, fuck, dude, like here comes this killer, and he has a loss to
Candyman, dude, is a legend. And and that's just how MMA was back in those days too, which like back in those days, but in that time, like before now, like it was like people who knew absolutely fucking nothing about fighting, but acted like they knew. And then people that knew fucking absolutely everything about fighting, but wouldn't tell you or wouldn't talk to you about it. So like it was like a perfect brew for him to come and be this fucking monster and just run through everybody. And then John was like, nope, sorry about that. And then, man, but the fact that it happened and he didn't fake it and get like I don't know. I love Michael Bisping, but I don't think I put Glover's championship up against his and kind of say like Glover kind of had it was a little bit better than someone like Michael Bisping who won it later on in their careers. You know what I mean?
I think it definitely aged better. I think because it's
and if
like
Glover gets this one, it ages very, very well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because Bisping had to defend against Dan Henderson, who was well past his expiration date at that point, in order to get a successful title defense in. Rockhold versus Jan Blachowicz. Well, Jan has laid out Rockhold in between then and now. So it's like that hasn't aged as well because of on paper, I think at the time, Rockhold looked like a better title win than Jan Blachowicz. But I think you do the MMA math a little bit, and then you consider that Jan Blachowicz he's a little bit older. I want to say he's like 38, so he's no spring chicken for the light heavyweight division. But I think he's going to be or remain more relevant competitively than Luke Rockhold. If Luke Rockhold wants to stick around, he'll be as relevant as he wants to, but just because he's a more fan friendly name. I think, you know what I mean. He's out of AKA and stuff like that. People don't necessarily know a lot about Jan Blachowicz, the person. So
Right.
I think he'll always be a little bit more relevant than Jan Blachowicz. But as far as competition goes, yeah, I think if we're comparing them, why the fuck are we comparing him though? How do we start comparing
No, just the MMA math for Glover and Bisping.
Glover and Bisping? That's right.
Winning the title at the end. Like, a lot of people ball wash Bisping, and I think he's great. I think he was a great fighter, and he has a lot of history behind him. What he did in the Ultimate Fighter, everything.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Good for you, and deserving champ. But I think Glover getting it the way he did, I don't think people kind of realize what Glover went through to get what I mean, some do, and maybe I'm just kind of like fanboying Glover a little too much.
No, dude. Actually, your biggest like point is right in front of you too, because look at how few fights Jiří had to win in the UFC to get to a title shot, compared to a guy like Glover. So Glover had to win 5 fights from his debut in the UFC. So a little faster than I thought. For some reason, I thought that he had to maybe win or get like 7 or 8 fights in, but he fought and beats Kyle Kingsbury, Fabio Maldonado, Quentin Jackson, James Tahuna, and Ryan Bader, which is a good run.
It's a good one. Kingsbury was not a joke.
Mm-mm. So yeah, but this fight with Jiří Procházka, it's a tough one to call. It's one I don't like having to make a call with, because it's, I think in either scenario, this is a 1-round fight, honestly, because if I think Jiří is dangerous enough that if Glover can't get the fight to the ground, I think he can put him away in 1 or 2 rounds. And as soon as Glover does get him to the ground, I think we've said it, I think we trust that Glover knows the assignment. And it's not just ball washing. Like, he has top control, is like second to none. And I don't know if Jiří Procházka has felt that before. I think I really think, like, I mean, we saw in that 10-minute fight with Vadim Nemkov, like, how many times those dudes looked like they had like rear naked chokes locked in on each other, and it was like constant scrambling and reversing and changing positions.
Jiří gives up a rear naked choke too if he gets taken. He not so that he gives them up, but they're there for the right person. He bucks up and he turns, and then a lot of times he's very strong. Like, he has a super wide shoulder set, so when he does that turn, it kind of throws the guy off, and he can kind of get away. And that Glover's gonna be right there for you, dog. When you try that, he's gonna be right there. He's hoping you do that shit.
Exactly, because like you watch, like I keep mentioning that fight with Nemkov because it's burned in my memory, but like,
it was art, dude.
I see those kind of transitions and that flowy scrambles, and it's like, it's beautiful, it's entertaining. It's high level, but it's also happening because both dudes are making a lot of mistakes. Right. Like, there's multiple times when I saw both of them with rear naked chokes, like, kind of locked in. There's no fucking reason you should be losing that position, and yet they reversed it. I mean, and we could talk about 10-minute fights, and you must be pretty fucking tired 7.5 minutes into it. So that could be a factor. But like you said, those openings, like, you cannot leave those kind of openings out there for Glover Teixeira, because he's going to jump on him. But then I also have the image of Alexander Gustafsson, like, uppercutting Glover Teixeira into oblivion. And so it's like, oh man, I think Glover has the wrestling to do it, but I think that Jiří has the physicality to survive a couple rounds without getting taken down. I think it's going to be a super, super dangerous first 2 rounds for Glover. After that, I think it gets a lot easier. I think that his pace, or even if he can get the fight down late into the second round or something and just hold position, even if he's been hurt already, and that's going to start to wear on Jiří Procházka. It's going to make him not be able to fight the fight at the pace that he wants to fight. This is a tough one to call, man, because I really do think like it could go either way. Would not be surprised at either result whatsoever. I don't think either guy winning is an upset.
I think what's going to be, what's kind of to piggyback on what you're saying is whatever the result is. I think the result for Jiří or the result for Glover we're gonna be, of course, like, why didn't we fucking see that before? Like, you know what I mean? And it might be something weird, but yeah, I want to say Glover wins. I think it would really. I think as much as awesome as it is to have Glover there, as fanboy as it is, as cool as it is to see him in there, I think Yuri's just a more marketable star at this point. So if there's any fuckery or weird shit that happens, it's gonna go Yuri's way. I just kind of want to put that in the ether right now. Like,
Interesting.
this is kind of sets itself up for, like, we can kind of see the UFC is gonna play their hand by, like, the way shit gets judged or doesn't get judged or whatever.
Good point.
Or, you know, if Glover, like, let's take this last week's fight with Volkov and Biggie Boy, Version Strike, right? Whereas if that's Glover and Jiří, if that's Jiří getting hit like that, is Herb Dean gonna jump in and stop it right away? Or is he gonna, like, let's let this fucking play out a little bit, you know? Yeah. Like that kind of thing, where those decisions, I'm gonna be looking out for shit like that. For as fucking fucked up as it is, that's what where my mind goes.
I'm also curious if the takedown threat or just knowing how bad things can go for Jiří on the ground is also going to make him fight differently, and make him less aggressive. Because, I mean, we saw him go in there and the things he did to Volkan Oezdemir and Dominic Reyes, like, neither of those guys are presenting the kind of threat that Glover Teixeira is. So I'm very, very curious to see just how... To see if Jiří Procházka has the audacity, really. It's more that. I want to see if he has the audacity.
I think he does. I don't think it's as much of audacity as it's, like, the fortitude of, like, I shouldn't be doing this, but I'm going to, because, you know, and I think he has that mentality to do something like that, to break through that. Whereas, like, where we saw with Rose, you know, like, she was afraid to get taken down, and it completely changed the way that she went about it. I think mentally he's not that, like, insecure about getting taken down as maybe someone, like, you know, and it's, what does Rose Namajunas have to do with Jiří Procházka?
I'm rubbing off on you. You're shoehorning in WMMA stuff into.
But what I'm saying is, like, she was very, like, insecure about what would happen if she got taken down. Whereas I don't think Yuri's as insecure as love, because we're making out, it's like, don't want to go on the ground, dog.
Yeah.
You don't want to. And then he's like, I've been around a little bit, guys. So
fucking
don't worry
samurai.
about me.
You see the top knot? Come on, guys.
Yeah. Don't worry about me, dog. I'll be all right. Something tells me I'll be fine. But, you know, and it's 43, 44-year-old Glover, not 28 or 32-year-old Glover either. You know, so.
Interesting fight.
We'll see what it is.
I'm going to go on the record and pick Glover. I hope he gets it. I'll be very, very happy for him if he manages to kind of. Yeah. I mean, by all accounts, he's not going anywhere. Even if he wins this fight, I keep feeling like Glover should be like 1 or 2 fights away from retirement. So I want to say, like, it'll be a really
lost time. He's making up for some lost time.
Absolutely. It'll be like a real storybook ending to see him, like, win the title and then successfully get a defense and ride off into the sunset. But it seems like he's going to be there. And I think Jiří Procházka is probably going to, unless he gets absolutely smashed in the first round, which I'm kind of predicting that he will. Either guy, like either loser, I think it's going to happen in the first or second round. But given the state of the light heavyweight division, I think that Jiří is probably going to find himself challenging for the title again very, very soon. Because Thiago Santos isn't really a factor anymore. We saw Raychik's his knee blew out. He's going to be out for a while. And that was a good win for Jan Blachowicz, and he won that because he was checking those leg kicks. So credit to Jan Blachowicz, but it's not going to do a whole lot for him as far as, like, securing a title shot again, which it probably will. He'll probably get the next title shot after this fight. But I just don't see. Dominic Reyes sounds like he wants to come back. I think they're going to have to find an interesting fight for him. I think I don't know if they make him fight Jan Blachowicz again. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't start matchmaking for the light heavyweight division once again. But I feel like we're gonna see these guys fight again very soon if Glover sticks around for a year or two more.
I think Jiří wins, and it's gonna be weird. It's gonna be something weird, like something weird. Just like, whoa, what the fuck? It's gonna be something weird. I just have this weird feeling like it's gonna be something we haven't. Not so much that we haven't seen, because I don't think you can. It's hard to find something you haven't seen at some point, but I think it's going to be something weird, like something cool, where it's like a cool strike, or like a kind of like a nice knee, like a well-timed knee, or he just always he has that dramatic flair, and he's very much he talks about it all the time. So I'm not like bringing up something that he hasn't said a million times, but he's very in the moment, like It's not. It kind of looks unorthodox. It kind of looks weird, but he knows what he's doing, and the result of it always is usually a clean strike, a well-timed strike. So, and I think,
Jiří Procházka, when he goes out there and he gets a highlight reel finish, like you mentioned, like you think it's going to be weird. Like I get what you're saying. I think it's going to be one of those where like the crowd gets quiet out of concern. Like
because Glover's so good at it, and we've talked about it with other guys or other gals too, where the fight's just slow. It slows down for them because they've just been there, they've done it, they've seen everything. Glover, there's nothing that Jiří's going to do that Glover hasn't seen, but at the same time, the speed, this guy is ferocious, and it's just fast, and it's just like, whoa, fuck, and it's very unorthodox, and like people talk all that shit, like the angles and coming in this weird. He does it. There's a method behind the craziness that he uses to get his strikes across, and something weird's gonna happen, dude. I just have a feeling it's either gonna be weird or 30-27.
The devastation,
or not 30-27. Sorry, that you can't have that, but it would be that type of like unanimous decision.
The kind of devastation that elbow that he hit Dominic Reyes with was like so dirty and hard to watch. It was one of those where I bet there's fighters on the roster who saw that shit and probably thought like, I wouldn't even hit my opponent with that if I saw it there, like, because it's that rude. Like, dude, that's excessive. Like, I think one upside if Jiří Procházka wins this is he strikes me because he has such a storied like record outside of the UFC. I feel like he might be here to make big moves. Like he's not wasting any time. I don't know anything.
He knows what it is too in his head right now. He knows that. It's not just going to be like, oh yeah, why not? He knows like there's probably like a handful of things where he's just like, you have these dunkers like in the NBA where they're just they're good players. They're but then some of these guys that they do these crazy ass dunks in the game, and you're just like, whoa, shit. But those guys were they as much as they want to act like they were cool and like, opportunity came up. Now they've been thinking about that shit over and over again. And he seems like the type of guy that like meditates on that shit. Like, I'm gonna do some weird fucking shit.
Yeah, and I have no idea how much Jiří Procházka is getting paid. Like, I don't know what his contract looks like. My guess is the fact that he is getting into he's getting a title shot with so few fights. I mean, most of the time I would look at that and I would say like, okay, I think he's not getting paid much, and the UFC sees his potential and they want to lock him into a championships clause while he's still making shit money, because they can continue to pay him shit money while he's a champion. But I think this might be an exception to that, because I think this is them looking at his record outside of the UFC and being like, okay, dude, you have all the fucking experience in the world. We can get you there. And I think Jiří knows that. And I think if he gets a win over Glover, I think he's immediately saying Israel Adesanya's name. He's immediately saying John Jones's name. He's saying, I don't give a fuck if you're a division under me, above me. Anyone can get it. And I think he's going to start chasing big money fights, despite this whole like persona that he puts on about like the way of the warrior and his like samurai way and shit like that. Like, he don't fight like that.
That's all part of it.
I mean, he's a warrior, but he fights to get ratings, basically. You know what I mean? So I think
he's smart, man, and he he played it right. Like they kept asking him, like, "Come on, let's go, let's do it, let's sign right here, sign right here, sign right here."
Mhm.
And he's like, "No, I'm fine fighting where I'm at right now." And
Talk
that's very smart.
talk about showing up at, like, I would love to like be a fly on the wall and see how
Yeah,
timed it was, or if it was just serendipity that he shows up and makes a big splash into the light heavyweight division, like
right away.
right after John Jones just
Oh,
goes away. Like it's kind of crazy because, like, yeah, you could be a light heavyweight looking in at the UFC from outside and being like, well, I got all of these guys from like yesteryear to fight. I could fight fucking Patrick Cummins or whatever, but like outside and
yeah,
get paid a lot more to do it in Japan. Why am I going to jump into this UFC pool when that guy's lording over the division? I don't know.
yeah,
I'm starting to speak for him now. I don't know the way
yeah.
Jiří really thinks, but I think that a
No one
Jiří
does.
Procházka win makes the light heavyweight division a bit more interesting.
Yeah,
For sure.
that gate. It's like the dam is holding the water back, but it's a strong ass fucking cauliflower eared dam, dude. Like that guy's. It's good. It's a good. It's a fucking. It's really cool to see this card, and just to kind of talk about it too. Like I think we're kind of these three fights that we talk, or these three fights that we've talked about, are worthy of a full podcast to themselves. But like, there's some good fighters on this, like Manel Kaop's
Manel
fighting.
Kaop,
That's
Rogério Bontorin,
that's gonna be
yes.
good. Yeah, that's a good one. Jack Magdalena is Del Magdalena. He's a good fucking fighter. And Andre Fiallo is on the card too. So there's some fucking horses on this fucking card that are low key, probably the future of the UFC for sure. I think Fiallo and Kaop are like dead ringer, like future stars. Fiallo was one guy that we've talked about. Is just like, dang, dude, this guy looks fucking.
Yeah, this will be Fialio's fourth fight in 2022 so
Yeah,
far, and we're only halfway through the year. He fought in January, April, May, and now he's gonna fight again in June. It's crazy what this
yeah,
guy's doing. And his loss to fucking Michel Pereira fucked me up because
yeah,
after I was really high on him coming into the UFC,
yeah.
and I had picked him to beat Michel Pereira. He lost that fight, and then in his two fights after that, I've picked against him because I was fading him. I was like down on Fialio
Anyone
now.
who loses to this fucking guy,
Yeah, and he's not. So yeah, it's fucked up. But I feel like Fialio is going to be turning into one of those dudes who he's going to win every time I pick against him, and vice versa.
he's gonna be around for a long. You can just tell, like like Tyler Santos, where the frame on them is there. You can see it. It's like they're building a race car, and but you have to have the frame for it to look good, and he's got it.
I gotta go with you though when you mentioned Manel Kaop versus
Oh yeah,
Rogério Bontorin. I think that fight definitely
that's a
has
banger.
fight of the night potential written
Blood
all
God's
over.
sacrifice, dude. That's
Brendan
gonna be a good
Allen
one.
versus Jacob Malkoun. That's
It's a
another
very
banger.
good one. Yeah, Malkoun. I like Malkoun a lot.
Yeah. All right, man. I think that pretty much covers it. We've talked about the three main fights on the main card. I'm excited for this one. We will be back as usual on Sunday or Monday to do our recap episode and talk about everything that we came away from this pay-per-view with. And I'm excited to cover that. Do you have any closing thoughts, Brandon, before we put a bow on it?
Ronda Rousey was a trash MMA fighter. I'll go. I'll go to my grave believing that. Edmund is a terrible human being. You're a terrible human being. You're very weird. And you ruined someone who could have been amazing.
I used to
She could have been great.
She could have been.
But
Yeah, there's
Edmund
there's
ruined
not
it.
there's not too many people who were doing judo like on that level. We get a lot of judo players, but it's almost like in name only. Where like she was literally coming out and it's like, no, if you're gonna fight Ronda Rousey and clinch up with her, you are going to get tossed on your head. Like it wasn't
That was
just
such
a
the
weapon
weird
in her
thing
back
was that-
pocket. Like it was her main discipline that she used. Like it was her main source of offense. So
And someone with that foundation of like you're an Olympian that should tell you. And judo is like the hardest fucking sport. Like that is, you have to be mean. You have to be very good at what you do. It's like a tailor-made. outside of like everyone talks about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai, and wrestling as like you got to have those. I think judo kind of can supersede, can like shoot. Like, case in point, her can like slingshot you above a lot of people who are like mid in those all three of those because of just the position you have to put yourself in. And her fucking coach could not build on that. And because like anyone who was like, if she would have went to like any freaking, I don't see how like you don't go like work out with like George St. Pierre and just go up there.
Yeah.
Just go to Montreal and just go do that. Like, why didn't you do that? Like, you could have been amazing. They could have turned you into like, or Trevor Whitman. Like, well, imagine what Trevor Whitman could have did with her. Yeah. You know, just frustrating, man.
Yeah, and even with the limited tools too, you get somebody who is not going to fucking blow smoke up your ass about a skill that you don't have. Be like, you can't box. Go throw this girl on her fucking head.
And then she went on Rogan, and then he cried. God damn it! Remember, he cried, man. We've talked about this before, right?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
The judo though, like I feel like in less than 10 years, like honestly, anybody who's just starting to train in mixed martial arts right now, if they can manage their time and if they can afford it, like if you can train judo alongside of wrestling and try and grow in both, because like there's just so many instances where like somebody is just going to defend whatever takedown or whatever single leg that you're going to throw because they've been on the mats. They probably went to school, you know, they did it in school, you know. But a well-timed trip or a throw, like not to fucking keep going back to Joanna Jędrzejczyk, but Joanna's takedown defense was impeccable until she ran into Valentina Shevchenko. And Shevchenko was tripping her.
Stuff,
she was just tossing her all over the place. And it wasn't takedowns, but they still count as takedowns because what the fuck else are you going to do? You know, it's judo throw. It gets it to the ground. It's a takedown. And that just decimated her takedown defense, like percentage or her success rate. And I think that there's like, we'd see a lot more of that. If there was a lot more judo players, would be like, okay, this person has incredible wrestling defense. That doesn't necessarily completely translate to takedown defense. I feel like takedown defense should span both disciplines.
Yeah, look at like Karo Parisian and Nick Diaz. Like that's where a judo, like a good judo base can really help you, is where like one of the best Brazilian jiu-jitsu practitioners in MMA against the Karo was amazing, but he had a really strong judo base. Like we were talking about Nemkov and Jiří, where like the flow of that fight, like that was like the flow in that fight. Anybody that's listening to this now, if you're still listening to this now, like go do yourself a favor and watch Karo Parisian and Nick Diaz.
Yes,
that shit was amazing. Just the way that they did it, and it was like judo against Brazilian jiu-jitsu, which they both kind of come from the same place, but it's a different way about it. And Karo would have been in a lot more trouble, and would have probably gotten taken down, choked out, or whatever else if he hadn't had such a strong judo base.
Yeah, and it's a weapon for a different position. Like you look at this recent Holly Holm fight with Ketlin Vieira, where she was just holding her up against the cage like the whole time. Like you got entire camps that are seemingly built around that strategy now, like where it seems like a lot of people,
and a lot of them are in Albuquerque.
For some reason, like Winklejohn seems to think like the key strategy in mixed martial arts is to like just push your opponent up against the cage and neutralize him there, which I mean it works. I don't think it's working to the best success for his fighters specifically, but it's undeniably a strategy that works. But I think if you
Carlos Condit with a gun to his head, his career just dying from assaulting away.
But if you do that with a judo ace, like that's not any walk in the park.
Yeah, that's
like,
not going to happen.
Like,
you're going to get turned. Yep.
All right, man. Let's put a bow on it. We'll call it there. We will be back, everybody. Hit like, subscribe, comment.
Official picks. What are your official picks? So you had Glover by early.
Glover by second round submission. First round submission.
First round submission.
Yes.
Okay. Then you have Valentina by decision.
Yeah, I'll go decision for Valentina.
And then Joanna 30-27. You said.
Yeah, by decision.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
You?
Oh, pretty much the same. I think Yuri wins on some weird shit, and I just that's what I want to see. Maybe I'm just kind of that's what I really want to see, and I think Zhang wins by decision. But pretty much the opposite of what you said as far as scoring wise.
Yeah.
So.
All right. All right, man.
I'll fucking nosebleed.
Thanks again, Brandon. Thank you for being here. Anybody, just a reminder, that song at the beginning of the podcast was Macondo. Stop Giving Away. Check them out. Macondo, Macondo Music 559. I think 559. If not, you'll find it. Have a good night, everybody. We will see you soon.